Hello, Extratime.
Point to the league not to get a hug because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read, they just laugh at you.
The single block, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Doody down to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Extratime Football Podcast. Your host Lee Jordan, Season 12, Episode 23 this week. A slightly different episode for you today. We didn't have our Extratime.com voice notes podcast on Saturday just due to the fact of the scattered nature of the FAI Cup fixture. So we decided to do a joint venture today. So you're going to hear some voice notes from around the grounds over this week's action. And then Macdara, Ferris and Tom O'Connor will join us later on for their in-depth analysis of the games this week. We're going to start with Thursday night games, the European match instead. We'll start with the game for Gibraltar. Shelbourne drew 1-1 on the night with St. Joseph's, and that was enough to go 3-2 on aggregate. Steven Doody did commentary on the night. Anyone who's following the YouTube feed, due to the fact of rights restrictions, the game was not streamed or shown in Ireland. But Steven Doody did commentary on the night on YouTube, and he dropped his voice note after the match to summarise the action.
Hey lads, just checking in with a quick voice now, just after full time here in Gibraltar. 1-1, the game finished. Shells obviously go through 3-2 on aggregate. Mad out game. See, St. Joseph's probably had the better of the chances, to be fair. Shells maybe rode their luck at times, hit the post, hit the crossbar. They huffed and puffed. They obviously took the leads, scored a cracker volley from the edge of the box. But probably, I would say, Shells equalised just in time, really. If it had gone on any longer, you might start to struggle a little bit. But real backs to the wall stuff then, towards the end of the game. We obviously had Sean Gannon was sent off. There was a big melee on the touchline. Sean Boyd got cleaned out with an elbow. So he ended up having to come off with a busted nose. And Olivero, the left back for Joseph's, who hit him with the elbow, he got a bit of stick from the line and from a few of the players, and it all just kicked off then. There was all sorts of stuff being thrown about. I was actually doing commentary for the game, and I turned into a boxing commentator for about 5 minutes trying to figure out what was going on. But look, it all settled down. Sean Gannon obviously got a straight red. They didn't. The only red they got was for their sub-keeper got a straight red. So it looked on all the apps as though they were down to 10 men as well, but they weren't. So just a case of hanging on for the last 10 minutes and got themselves over the line, and now the group can look forward to Zurich next Thursday. And the atmosphere was incredible. It was that 18-year wait for Shells fans in Europe. Like that moment, Sam Bowen popped that goal in. It was just pandemonium in the stands, and you could probably say it's well deserved for some of them people that have struggled for so long going to watch Shells in the first division, and felt like it all kind of came together tonight after the game. But over the two legs, probably did deserve to go through, but I think it'll be a more serious test now in the next round with Zurich. But the result was all that matters, and got over the line in the end.
So Shelbourne progress to the next round of the Europa Conference League. Unfortunately, Derry did not progress to the next round. Despite winning 2-1 on the night against Bruno Magpies, it wasn't enough as the host had won 2-0 in the first leg. So Derry lost 3-2 on aggregate. Dee Curran, Drive 105, was there, covered the match in the Brandywell, and afterwards he dropped us this voice note.
What's happening now? Look, here I sit with very little voice left and broken-hearted as Derry City exit the Europa Conference League at the first hurdle. First off, I'll have to apologise, as I say, for the lack of voice. We were broadcasting from 7 p.m. right until 10:30, and it was an absolutely frenetic pace in the first half as Derry City bombarded the Magpies goal, with Hubin and McMullen putting efforts wide in the opening 10 minutes. On the 16th minute, though, City almost had their first piece of luck of the game as the ball from the right-hand side rocketed low into the box and was deflected towards goal by Ruben Diaz. The goalkeeper, Colding, had to make a save at his near post. Now, if you go on social media tonight, you'll read post after post after post about the Andorran officials who oversaw this game. In fact, the referee from tonight was the fourth official in the Shelbourne St. Joseph's game last week in Longford Park. The first howler of the night that he made came in the half-hour mark, Pat Hubin had the ball in the back of the net. A cross came in from the right-hand side again and he headed it into the goal. But the referee disallowed it for a foul on the Magpies defender. However, having watched the replay back, the only player that I can see being fouled in the exchange is the Derry City striker. As he rose to meet the header, he was pushed on the back, and you can even see him leaning or contorting in a certain way as he makes a connection with the header to put it in, that Ash Taylor, I believe it was, had pushed him in the back, but the referee and the assistant who was looking towards the face of Hubin and not the back failed to see the foul and gave it against the Derry City striker. In the second half, though, City had another penalty claim turned down too by the referee in the midst of a flurry of chances. Personally, I wasn't too sure. I thought it was a bit of a 50-50 clash, but those around me believed that Danny Kelly should have been awarded the spot kick. But the big moment in the officials' performance in the game came just before half-time when Adam O'Reilly was shown his second yellow card for simulation. From where I was sitting, I have to admit, I actually did think that Adam O'Reilly tried to buy the penalty. And if I had been the referee's position, I probably would have shown a yellow card too. So I know a lot of Derry City fans will be a bit angry at that claim, but that's just where I saw it, and that's just how I would have claimed it. But that was in the 45th minute. I have actually fast forwarded a little bit because the Brandywell exploded on the 38th minute as Mark Connolly scored his second goal of the season from a corner kick delivery by Ben Doherty. The large unit of Ash Taylor didn't get in front of the Derry City defender as he rose to direct the ball towards the goal, and it beat the goalkeeper. There was a belief from that moment that a second goal was imminent, even whenever we were reduced to 10 men. Coming into the second half, Paul McMullen had two opportunities saved by the goalkeeper as he shot from an angle in both occasions. And leading up to that, Pat Hubin then scored his 12th goal of the season and his 7th goal of his career in European competition. A corner kick comes in from, once again, Derry City's left-hand side, and the Galway hitman heads towards goal only to see his header come off the line from his own player, quite hysterically, but as it bounces back out, he converted the rebound. So 2-0 Derry City, 2-2 in the tie, and the Magpies in normal time had few half chances, but in the dying moments they could have killed the game. The substitute Edu Salas, who is of Brazilian nationality, had been brought on late in the second half, and as the ball came in from the right hand side from the right back Ronco, Edu had a chance or an opportunity that was quite reminiscent of Steve Bruce's famous miss against Reading in the FA Cup back in the mid-90s. From 4 yards out, the ball squared to the centre forward, and the chance seemed harder to miss than score. He somehow managed to scoop it over the crossbar, much to the hilarity of all the Derry City fans in the Brandywell, which turned out to be a sell-out fixture. So extra time, both teams looked knackered. Derry in particular looked like the walking wounded, being reduced down to 10 men. Connolly had to go off at the start of extra time because he was having difficulties even kicking the ball. It looked like it was his hamstring he was complaining about. And by the end of the game, Paul McMullen almost had to be scooped up off the pitch and carried off. It was in the 111th minute, though, that the stadium was stunned to silence. Juan Arguez struck the crossbar from 30 yards out, and with Marr still trying to recover from the initial shot, the substitute Evan DeHaro put the rebound in the back of the net. It was a fantastic strike, I have to say, but it stunned the Derry City faithful into silence. So the panic was on. City continued to apply the pressure, but the Magpies defended admirably. Easy for me to say, isn't it? 5 minutes after they had taken the lead in aggregate, Hubin had a bicycle kick that was headed off the line, and I have to give credit to Ash Taylor for his technique, because he's standing right on the line and he's able to get his body underneath the shot in behind the goalkeeper and head it up into the air and over the crossbar. It was a fantastic technique, and I must point out too that Ash Taylor was amongst the star players for the Magpies across both games. So as the whistle blew, boos rang out across the night, but I assume most of it was directed towards the Andorran officials. Look, Like, a volley of abuse was hurled at the officials as they started to walk into the tunnel, many standing over the top of it. And I even noticed the Derry City director in the middle of all of it too, shouting a wee bit. But no Irish club in the history of European competition has ever progressed after being 2 goals down going into the second leg. And overall, City's approach to the game was very aggressive and a much better watch than what their league games at the Brandywell have been. We have often talked about how Derry City play in a style that isn't very risk aversive. We often play to the left, to the right and backwards. It's very slow, very lethargic. But tonight it looked much, much sharper. And Derry were good value for the 2-1 victory, but obviously it ended 3-2 in aggregate that sees them crash out. One of our listeners actually sent us a message during the game and said that if this was the attitude that Derry showed at every league game, then they'd be running away with a league title. And I have to agree with our text messenger, because it was a fantastic performance. Paul McMullen looked much, much sharper as he moved from the centre over to the right-hand side. Michael Duffy played his first game in a couple of weeks, and he was a constant threat throughout. Pat Hubin didn't come as deep as he normally does throughout most of our league fixtures, and found himself in quite some promising positions. But what I will say is that other people will say that the game management wasn't up to standard, and that's why we lost tonight. But ultimately, the tie for me was lost last week in Gibraltar. You can blame the sunshine and the pitch all you like, but City should have done more away from home. But up next is on Sunday, we face St Patrick's Athletic in the FAI Cup, and look, City haven't played 120 minutes tonight, and Pat's well rested in the last few weeks. I'm sure you're feeling more and more confident about coming to the Brandywell and finally getting a victory over the Candy Stripes in 2024.
So Shells march on into the second round of the Europa Conference League qualifiers, while unfortunately Derry bow out at the first hurdle, second time in 3 years this has happened for Rory Higgins' men. Let's turn our attention now to the FAI Cup action, starting with Friday's games. We have a bit of audio sent in from our reporters around the ground. We'll start with the big game in Dalymount Park. Bohemians won, Shamrock Rovers 0. Rovers really wanted to get through that game. Stephen Doody pre-match had spoken about how they wanted to win the cup, they want to take it serious, they wanted to get to the cup final. But unfortunately, they've also fallen short at the first hurdle. Paul O'Connor was there for Extratime, and he dropped us this voice note.
Good evening, this is Patrick O'Connor from Extratime.com at Dalymount Park with a summary report on tonight's Sports Direct FAI Cup second round match between the hosts, Bohemians and Shamrock Rovers. Final score here at Dalymount, Bohemians 1, Shamrock Rovers 0. So Rovers bow out at the first hurdle, and Bows progress on to the last 16. In terms of the game overall, first half was very mediocre, very even Steven between both sides. Both sides, in fairness, were intent on playing it on the deck, which they did. There was some good passing moves, but a lot of the moves on both sides also fell down, a lot of misplaced passes, etc., etc. Bows, probably the better side overall, just about shaded in the first half. There were really 2 standout features from that opening 45 minutes. First one, which spoke a lot, was that there was no shot on goal at either end. So Sharaska or Paul didn't have a save to make in the opening 45 minutes plus a minute of extra time. And the other standout feature, I think, was Bows won a lot of set pieces, corners and free kicks, but generally their deliveries were very, very poor. I thought they might rue all those chances that they passed up in the first half, but as it transpired at the end, they didn't. So it ended 0-0 at the break after kind of, as I say, mediocre enough first 45. The intensity level ratcheted up a lot in the second half. Much more fire. Crowd really got behind Bows. It was a great atmosphere. Stephen Bradley could see that Rovers weren't really firing on all cylinders at all. Probably still suffering a reaction from their great Champions League win midweek. They looked a bit flat. So he made 4 substitutions. You don't normally see that. Around the 58th minute, he brought on Dara Burns, Trevor Clark, Neil Ferrugia and Johnny Kinney with the intention of sparking some life into the Rovers play. Didn't really have any major impact, if the truth be told. Ferrugia had a couple of good runs. Clark got in a couple of crosses. But overall, the Bows defence right throughout the game, particularly in that period in the second half where they come under a little bit of pressure, dealt superbly well with everything that was thrown at them. Key moment in the game arrived in the 67th minute. Dale Rooney, who had taken some of those free kicks and corners, and some of his deliveries, I have to say, were poor, but he certainly made up for him the 67th minute. Cut in off the right wing, played a lovely through ball to Ross Tierney, who had a great game overall. Tierney was fouled by one of the Rovers defenders. I think it might have been Honan, I'm not certain. But Rooney grabbed the ball, took the penalty, and put it past Poles. 1-0 to Bohemians. There was no great reaction from Rovers after that, which was surprising. Bows, in fact, went on to dominate the game right up to the 90th minute. They had a couple of other half chances. Again, lots of free kicks and corners. Didn't really test Poles anymore after that. And in the last, I think it was 7 minutes of injury time, Bows retreated very much into defensive mode. Everybody was behind the halfway line, and Rovers did have possession for those remaining 7 minutes, but they never really created any chances, and they just had one wild effort from Darren Nugent with maybe 2 minutes or so left that went well wide and over the bar. So overall, a very, very good second half. I have to say the Bohemians fully deserving of their win. They were the better side throughout. So great night here at Dalymount for the home supporters. And there was 4,431 people here. The vast majority of those, obviously, apart from those in the mono stand across from the Jody stand, were Bows. So about roughly 4,000 Bow supporters and 400 or so from Shamrock Rovers, I would estimate. So that's it. Final score here at Dalymount Park. Bohemians 1, Shamrock Rovers 0. Patrick O'Connor, Extratime.com.
So Bows progressed to the third round of the FAI Cup. So do Drogheda United after a tension-filled game the week before in the Louth Derby. Thankfully, this game was not as tense, but it was still action-packed on the field. Drogheda progressed, like I said, in Weavers Park 2-1 against Dundalk, and Paul Crowley drops his voice note and summarised the game.
Oh, Shane, it's all over here in Weavers Park for the second time in 2 weeks. These two teams meet in the Louth Derby. It was bragging rights last week for Dundalk. It's bragging rights this week for Drogheda United. With a 2-1 win. Not the best game we would have seen. A much more entertaining game last week up in Oriel Park. But Drogheda United won't care. They took the lead in the first half. New signing James Bulger. Centre half played on the left side of a tree. Kevin Doherty went with a near 3-4-3 formation tonight, or 3-5-2, whatever way you want to look at it. It was a cross in from Luke Heaney. Bulger just directed it towards goal. Keeper be disappointed he didn't do better. Just went in under the crossbar. They led 1-0 at half time. Second half, like the first half, not so entertaining. Neither team started great. Dundalk started getting a little bit more possession in wide areas, but again didn't really threaten Drogheda United much. They took a 2-goal lead. Warren Davis substitute came on. A little bit of hesitation from John Mountney in the box, and he just looped it over the keeper to make it 2-0. Dundalk didn't look like they'd recover from this tonight. They just didn't offer much as a goal threat. Bryner came when he had the ball at times, and the game was very effective, but he just didn't get himself or Darrell Horgan in wide areas enough and get them on the ball enough. They didn't impose themselves on the game at all, nor did Drogheda United, but at the same time, Drogheda in a little bit more control, a little bit more dogged tonight. Kevin will be very happy with the form, especially defensively, especially on the goals they've been conceding, but they were unable to keep a clean sheet with Faulkner in the 92nd minute, giving the Dundalk fans something to shout about.
Galway were the big winners on Friday night. They won 6-0 against First Division side Longford Town, and Paul Corcoran for Extratime.com was at the game, and guess what? He dropped his voice note.
It's just gone full time here in Galway, where Galway United have ran out 6-0 winners over Longford Town in the second round of the FAI Cup. Look, we could spend the whole night talking through the whole game and all of the chances, but I might get straight to the goals, to be perfectly honest. Look, Galway United, being a Premier Division side, to be fair, were dominant from the start. Obviously, Longford, bottom of the First Division currently. They took the lead in the 11th minute through Francie Lomboto, showed some nice skill in the edge of the box under pressure to actually smash the ball home. They doubled their lead 2 minutes later by Maurice Nugent. Look, Longford are a bit static at the back just throughout the whole night. and an attempted clearance which he smacked off Maurice Nugent and went to the back of the net. United strengthened their position then in the 25th minute when a corner came in, but there's a real bit of misfortune for Longford Town. It looked like Eric Yoro, the Longford Town centre back, the ball coming off the defender and going into the back of the net, and that's how the side was in at half time. There really wasn't much to talk about from the Longford side in that first half, but certainly plenty of chances. Pat Hickey in particular in that first half, very unlucky not to score. He went very close late on in that first half. He had a header just over the bar, and he was also played in and had a shot save from very close range when he was played in. For the second half, David Hurley came into the picture, and he got a chance to get his name on the score sheet for the second time this season when Pat Hickey was dragged down in the box. Referee David Dunn pointed to the spot immediately, and Hurley made no mistake, firing the penalty down into the right corner for United's fourth goal of the night. They followed up 7 minutes later, a nice break with a long ball from Bobby Burns, fell into the path of Junior, who, to be fair to the striker, had worked hard all night and showed a real bit of unselfishness when he played the ball into Jimmy Keown, who slotted the ball through the goalkeeper's legs for the fifth goal of the night. Junior did get his reward, and I have maybe given him the player of the match. You know, struggled in the first half a bit, but a lot of industry by the striker. But he scored his first goal for the Tribesmen in the 87th minute with a nice ball from substitute Vince Borden. Lovely flick shot from Junior to beat the defence and slot that into the left corner. Not a lot more to tell you. You know, impressive performance by Galway United. They go into the draw, which is next Tuesday in Abbottstown, I believe. Final score here in Galway: Galway United 6, Longford Town 0.
Moving on to Saturday's games, and First Division side Cork City faced off against fellow First Division side Finn Harps. Cork went on to win the game 1-0 in Turner's Cross, and Dylan O'Connell drops his voice now about the action.
Cork City are through to the third round of the FAI Cup after a 1-0 victory over Finn Harps at Turner's Cross. Manic Dyseal got the game's only goal in the 39th minute with an inside the boot finish at the St. Anne's end. That's pretty much the story of the game. Even though the home side used the full extent of their squad, Finn Harps battled bravely, but they struggled to create a meaningful shot on target. The Rebel Army pushed for a second goal towards the end of the game, but nothing came of it, despite shots for Jack Doherty and co. And now the Rebel Army are through alongside another team from the London Senior League, Wilton United, who overcame Carrigaline United 2-1 last night at Ballyea Park.
Moving on to Sunday's fixtures then, and Shelbourne faced First Division side Bray Wanderers in the Carlisle ground. A Sean Boyd goal in the first half was enough to see Damien Dustman progress, and our reporter Tommy Healy was at the game, and he dropped us this voice note.
Tommy Healy reporting here from the Carlisle grounds for Extratime.com after Shelbourne escaped with a 1-0 win against Bray Wanderers in the second round of the FAI Cup. And I do say escaped because, well, Bray looked like the most likely to score in the second half, especially towards the end of the game, and it is a little bit of a surprise that they didn't. But it was Shells who started the quicker of the two. Maddie Smith and Ali Coote were causing a lot of problems for Bray, and they picked up a very early yellow card within the first minute for Paul Murphy, and it would be their hard work that would pay off. John O'Sullivan played a lovely ball for Ryan Tulloch, whose incisive pass found Sean Boyd in behind. He'd kept himself onside and he put it in to the near post corner, and just like that, Shells were on the front foot, and Boyd himself could have had easily two more, could have made it a hat-trick within 5 minutes. His first attempt was a cross from Mally Coote, and Boyd's attempt was blocked by one of the Bray defenders. And then the second, just a couple of minutes after that, Matty Smith found a lovely cross, and Boyd's header was just wide of Jimmy Corcoran's post. The action sort of petered out after that in the first half in terms of chances, and Bray actually got into it a bit. Harry Groom had a shot saved by Lorcan Healy in the Shells goal towards the end of the first half. Among some other chances, Callum Thompson took on Cameron Ledwidge and managed to win a corner after going past him. In the second half then, again, Shells started the same way that they opened the first. Harry Wood had a very good chance. He had the ball in the back of the net, but the assistant's flag was up for offside. And then from there, it seemed that Bray were just on top, and the Shells didn't really know how to contain themselves. A bit of a mix-up at the back between Sam Bone and Lorcan Healy almost led to a goal, but it didn't. The Shells made substitutions. They brought on big names. They brought on Mark Coyle, Will Jarvis, players who played in Gibraltar on Thursday night and are expected to be kept for Zurich this coming Thursday. But again, a breakthrough for a second goal just couldn't be found, and it really was Bray who were knocking on the door more and looked very, very likely to score. And their two biggest chances came within the last 5 minutes of the game, as right on the 90th minute, Max Murphy had a shot from the edge of the box that just went wide, giving a big, big scare to all of the Shelbourne fans, but not nearly as big as the one he had 5 minutes later, as right with the last attack of the game, in a similar position, he had a shot, this time on target, and it was parried away by Lorcan Healy, and he had to scramble for it as substitute Cole for Bray was right there, and his shot went straight into the arms of Healy, as it was a fairly tame effort. But nonetheless, the referee blew the whistle after that, and Shelbourne just about got away with it, and they got the 1-0 win, and that is the final score from the Carlisle grounds.
And our last voice note of the evening comes from Sligo Rovers as they won 3-0 against non-league side Cove Wanderers. Jessica Farry was at the game and doing comms with LOI TV, and she dropped us this voice note.
It's full time here at the showgrounds as Sligo Rovers progress to the third round of the Sports Direct Men's FAI Cup with a 3-0 victory over Munster Senior League side Cove Wanderers. A Wilson Waweru hat-trick was the difference between the two sides in a game that Sligo Rovers completely dominated for 93 minutes. Cove Wanderers goalkeeper Mark Power was impressive in stages with a number of really, really good saves, keeping the scoreline down after Wilson Waweru put the Bit of Red ahead after just 17 minutes as he ran onto the ball after Ellis Chapman's effort was saved. Despite completely controlling the game, Sligo Rovers weren't completely controlling the scoreline, and although they tried their hardest, they were finding it difficult to break down Cove Wanderers' back five. And it is worth noting that Cove Wanderers are in their off-season, but they did appoint a new manager in experienced League of Ireland manager Stephen Henderson a few weeks ago, and he had the side well organised for this tie at the showgrounds. And as both sides made changes, Sligo Rovers were desperate to get a second to see this tie out, and Waweru added his second with 15 minutes to go after Will Fitzgerald headed the ball down in his direction. And deep into additional time, Waweru was awarded a hat-trick, which he scored as he sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. So for Sligo Rovers, they progress through a round in the FAI Cup for the first time since 2020, having gone out at the first time of asking in the last 3 consecutive years. All over the showgrounds, it's finished Sligo Rovers 3, Cove Wanderers 0.
So Sligo Rovers progressed to the third round of the FAI Cup after a 3-0 win. Delighted to say the two lads are with me today to wrap up this weekend's action. Macdara Ferris and Tom O'Connor. Lads, where are we?
Good, Luke.
Not so bad, Luke.
I suppose, Tom, you have a little fact sheet for us from this weekend, from the games?
Yeah, look, I suppose, I'm going to go through. We've had an awful lot of games from Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So, look, kind of go through all the games. We've heard from a number of reporters on it, and then, like you say, kind of tie in a few bits and pieces for it. So look, like we heard from Paul Crowley at Weavers Park, there was that win on Friday night for Drogheda United in the Louth Derby, which was incidentally the same outcome at the same venue in 2013, a few weeks after Clare last won the All-Ireland hurling title. And then on the same night as Pat O'Connor spoke to us, Bows won the Dublin Derby with a 1-0 victory over Shamrock Rovers, Dale Rooney with the winning penalty. And Rooney also scored against a Rovers outfit. This time it was Sligo, the last time Jean de Soufflet won a major championship in May. And also on Friday night, Athlone Town beat Ringmahon Rangers of Cork, Brian Torres scoring his first goal of the season. While another First Division outfit, Kerry, beat Cove Ramblers 2-0. Cian Brosnan and Ryan Callagher scoring. That was Callagher's 10th goal in his last 7 games for Kerry. Paul Corcoran's voice note told us all about Galway United hammering Longford Town 6-0, and Junior, on his return to the league, scored his first goal for Galway United, as did Jimmy Keohane. In Munster, 17-year-old Treaty United goalkeeper Michael Dyke saved 2 penalties in the shootout as Kilbarrack were defeated after a goalless draw, while at the RSC, Waterford overcame an early scare as ex-Finn Harp striker Luke Rudden scored early for Cockale Celtic before the Blues came back through goals from Arubi and Burke for a 2-1 victory for the Premier Division outfit. In a clash of the Cork-based junior outfits, Wilton United got the better of Carrigaline United on a 2-1 scoreline. That was on, they were all Friday night's games. On Saturday, like we heard from Dylan O'Connell, Malik Dykesgill strike was enough to give the runaway First Division leaders a 1-0 victory over Finn Harps, while in the other tie played on Saturday, Pike Rovers of Limerick knocked out Middleton of Cork to make it to the quarterfinals. Sunday saw an early start for another Cork outfit as Leeds AFC travelled to Dublin for a midday kick-off against Ballyfermot United. The home side, who are under recently appointed manager Barry Prendeville, who replaced the long-standing John Moore, they won 3-1 to record the first victory of the day. UCD were the next team through as they comfortably beat Gorey Rangers 4-0 in their 2 p.m. kick-off in the Model County. Tommy Healy spoke to us earlier on about Shelbourne's victory over Bray Wanderers at a packed Carlisle grounds. Sean Boyd's winner separated the sides, while Wayside Celtic were swatted aside 3-1 by Wexford FCs as Aaron Dobbs netted his third goal in 3 games. And like Jessica Farry said to us earlier on, there was also 3 goals at the Sligo Rovers game as Wilson Wawero's hat-trick separated the sides. Incidentally, it was only the second time Wawero has played in and won an FAI Cup tie, and on both occasions he was refereed by Owen O'Shea. And the final game of the weekend saw St Patrick's Athletic defeated 3-0 at the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium with goals from Danny Mullen and Michael Duffy on the score sheet. Joseph Anang was back between the sticks for St Pat's after returning from West Ham, while Zach Albazadi made his debut for the visitors. And that was a number of players making their debuts for sides over the weekend, which is not any major surprise as we are bang in the middle of a transfer window. And both myself with Dundalk ties and yourself, Luke, with St Pat's ties, we've seen a lot of transfers over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we mentioned on the last show there, kind of mentioned a couple of signings there. Zach Albazzetti obviously made his debut today in that drubbing up in the Brandywell that I said a bit better about that in terms of being from a past perspective. But yeah, and obviously Joseph Dan come back in, made a good penalty save today. But yeah, Pat's cup defence has ended at the first hurdle, unfortunately, in the Brandywell. Mark, do you have any facts you want to add to the conversation out of Tom's list there?
No, I've been out and about, so I didn't realise who had actually won the golf because I kind of half turned it off when Larry kind of started well today, but then fell apart. So yeah, no, that was news to me when I should have been gaining some League of Ireland news. I actually got some major golfing news there.
Yeah, we'll come back to the transfer news and do a little wrap up towards the end. Macdara, you were at the Bows and Shamrock Rovers game, as we mentioned on the last pod. Myself, I was a bit surprised probably by the outcome. Bohemians coming out on top. First of all, the penalty incident itself, what did you see? What do you think?
I think it was a penalty. I think Trevor Clark kind of goes to kick it. He doesn't kind of kick the ball, doesn't really see where the Bows player is coming in from behind and takes him down. There didn't seem to be too much complaining. I was a little bit surprised that maybe there wasn't a red card shown to, I think it was Alex Gray who went in on Dan Cleary. The LOI TV didn't kind of capture it. It certainly looked like he'd kind of swung something at him. So I don't know. But what I have to say is Bows thoroughly deserved the win. They played quite well. Plenty of shots on goal. Rovers were poor, having made a number of changes coming into the game from their win over Vikinger during the week in the Champions League qualifiers, but they didn't play well. Really didn't deserve anything. I think that 4 shots on goal, 4 shots, none on target, and they didn't test the goalkeeper at all. So yeah, it was a very disappointing performance from Shamrock Rovers. Stephen Bradley had talked about wanting to win the cup. He didn't quite throw his players under the bus afterwards, but he was pretty scathing of their performance and how disappointed he was in players having freshened up the team. It didn't look like they were freshened up. Like watching the warm-up that was in front of, I was in the monostand, and early in the second half you had Dylan Watts, Neil Farrugia, Dara Burns, Johnny Kenny all warming up in front of you, and you thought they probably should be on the pitch. And when they came on, the Rovers were probably a little bit better, but at that stage Bows had the lead, and they were happy enough to hold on to it. The usual bit of goalkeeper and going down looking for extra attention as well. But as I said, Bows were well worth the win on the night.
Yeah, just on the team selection, as well as what I saw in the first half, and when I did see the team news come in, I was a bit surprised myself that neither Dylan Watts or Johnny Kenny, who were excellent on Tuesday night, both didn't start the match, and kind of goes against what Stephen Bradley was saying post-match about how they want to take the cup serious this year, how they want to progress, they want to get to the Aviva Stadium, and when you're going, as he put it himself in his own words, that it's probably the most difficult tie to get as a Shamrock Rovers player and for the club itself. It's probably a bit surprising that maybe their two best players at the moment weren't playing the game.
Yeah, Watts had supplied both the assists for Kenny's goal the other night, and I could understand if they're playing Champions League second round qualifier on Tuesday night, but they're playing Sparta Prague. Andrew Denson sent me on one of these tweets of the calculators for progression, and it had Shamrock Rovers at 1% for progression through to the next round of the Champions League. It's a big ask for them to go up against Sparta Prague. It'd be a bit different maybe if they'd oppositions that isn't quite at that high level. Prague have been in the Europa League group stages and qualified out of it in the last 3 years. But they're not. So I would have thought maybe bring them in. Obviously Jack Byrne was going to start because he's suspended for that game, but he was pretty poor. He was pretty poor in the night. I suppose I was expected to see maybe Darragh Burns and Neil Farrugia start, particularly Farrugia, and both of them I think have been on the bench for the last 3 games and have come on. And when they brought them on Tuesday, it was soon afterwards back to the wall because Jack Byrne got sent off. So I was probably a bit disappointed because Farrugia's enjoyed playing at Dalymount Park, played really well when he came on. He probably provided the best openings for Rovers. So that kind of be my view of the team selection on the night.
Quick word on Bows then. I suppose it's been a topsy-turvy season for the club. Managerial change. It has been smooth sailing for Alan Reynolds since coming in. Arguably probably one of their best performances so far that you've seen under Alan Reynolds.
Yeah, their record in the league run was really, really poor coming into it. There has been change within the squad. They've brought players in, brought players out as well. So Dylan Connolly's gone off to Glenavon. I think they managed to get a fee for him because he was under contract, but he'd been yeah, he was definitely on the way out. He wasn't going to be hanging around in the dressing room under that current manager. So it was a really, really big game for Bohemians, and we talked about it when the cup draw was made that it was Bows and Rovers, so one of those teams is going to get. So Bows have advanced, Shamrock Rovers are gone. Derry City have played Pats, cup holders, Pats have gone. So you've got two of the biggest sides in the League of Ireland are now out. So it does open up, but also it gives Bows some momentum. Like the Dalymount Park at the final whistle. Once you weren't a Shamrock Rovers fan, it was absolutely brilliant night.
Yeah.
It was packed in and around the ground, and they probably the goal coming not that late in the second half, but they were well on top of it in the game. Got the goal and then shut it out. What it does is it gives them a bit of momentum because they've kind of been sucked in. I'm not going to say kind of relegation battle because they have games in hand, but you have to win those games in hand, and their record had been pretty poor coming into the cup games. So really, really important results for Bohemians that they can take on to, in the cup draw. We'll see they'll get in the next round.
Yeah, and we'll come back to Rovers a little bit later on at the game against Sparta Prague coming next week. Tom, if I was to say to you in terms of 2 loud derbies in a row and you win the league derby, would you lose the cup one? Would you have taken it 2 weeks ago?
Sorry, it was a strange one because I was at the game at Oriel Park last week, and it was like an utterly dominant display for Dundalk. So at that point, you're kind of going, right, it was 4-2, but Drogheda got a last minute penalty. It was 4-1 right up until pretty much the last kick of the game. So I mean, Dundalk had put in such a really promising display that you kind of thoughts of either or were out of your head. Whereas, the display, I wasn't at the game on Friday night, but listening and watching and then it was a different team. Drogheda changed completely. They brought in, they changed their defence. They repositioned players in their more natural positions. Like we knew the last season he was playing for Drogheda, he was playing right back, phenomenal right back. They had started him at kind of defensive midfield position. Last week didn't really work. They repositioned and played at wing backs, and they deserved to win. So I suppose at the end of the day, look, the league's your, I know everyone says it, like, but the league is your bread and butter. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But by the same token, would Dundalk have loved to have a cup run to try and take their mind off what, ultimately has been a disappointing league campaign so far? Absolutely. Like 2002 Dundalk, obviously relegation was a story then, and they won the cup. Were people looking at maybe that was a way of, I won't say carpeting over, but was that, looking at 22 years later, similar results? Possibly, but I mean, obviously now, no, and obviously now you're just looking at trying to put this, and so hopefully Drogheda go on a good cup run. Hopefully Bows and Pats, well, Pats obviously not going on a cup run, but hopefully maybe Bows go on a cup run as well and get a little bit distracted, and Dundalk can then climb out of relegation fear. So yeah, it's like I say, a strange one. Ultimately 3 points is going to be better for your season long term. That's the way I'm looking for it, but that's the way I kind of have to talk to a Drogheda United fan. Maybe they look a different way.
Well, yeah, and I suppose it's similar to kind of what Darcy about Bohemians in terms of it can be a springboard now for them, some momentum to go into the latter stage of the season, because as it stands, they are 5 points adrift of Dundalk and another 9 off Bohemians. As Macdara said, they do have games in hand too. So again, Drogheda do need the momentum, especially if they want to try to get out of those relegation spots. Macdara, the 2 European clubs both progress, Shelbourne and Derry.
Yeah, the Derry is probably a bit of a surprise because, it was a pretty embarrassing result for them in Europe during the week, literally losing to a pub team. Like to go out for, I think that's the second time in 3 years to go out at the first round is really disappointing. And they did really well last year, winning first qualifying round, second qualifying round, and only going out on penalty kicks to Tobol, the Kazakhstan team. So you were kind of wondering what it'd be like. They had to play with 10 men for, a good bit of second half and extra time after Adam O'Reilly got the second yellow card. So you're kind of going, oh, what would it be like hosting the cup holders? But the 3-0 win, like if we were saying that Alan Reynolds needed a cup win for Bohemians, Rory Higgins certainly needed that win, and also that result is really, really impressive. And I suppose I didn't see it coming after the disappointment in Europe. Shells, I did watch the Shells game, if you can call it that, on Thursday in Gibraltar. I think St. Joseph's were probably, I don't know, playing silly buggers. They moved the kickoff time to as early as I think they were allowed to make it as hot as possible temperature-wise. They wouldn't sell the TV rights to Shelbourne, which seems a bit mad. Like, they had the infrastructure. That match was on Gibraltarian television. So I certainly don't blame the Shells fans for singing Gibraltar Spanish, although I suspect UEFA might actually find them. So I thought Shelbourne did a really good job. They, on their YouTube channel, people have probably seen this. I think it's Steven Doody is their kind of comms man, and they had his. They just streamed him live, looking at the game, Soccer Saturday style, and I think he did a really, really good job. And they hung on for a win, and they set up I think there's probably several hundred Shells fans going to Zurich this week for the second round. That's a very difficult game, but Shells did what they needed to do, and then they won in Bray today with Sean Boyd. Don't know whether he was wearing a mask, because I think he did have his nose broken the other night in the big
just on that,
incident.
did anyone here see the elbow that Sean Gannon got sent off for from confronting the player? It was an absolute disgrace.
Oh, is there footage?
There's a clip that went around on X, or Twitter.com.
Okay, I did see the goal. So anyway, Sean Boyd, he got the winner in Bray today. Tough enough game, I suppose. Rather than, there's a lot of kind of non-league sides that only obviously travel back from South Spain, Gibraltar, on probably Thursday night, Friday morning. So no, puts them in half of the next round. I don't think Damien Duff was particularly happy with their performance today. I saw a clip just going online there. We're recording on Sunday evening, but all that matters is you're through to the next round draw.
Yeah, and that person you mentioned who did the stream was Stephen from the 895 podcast, who dropped us that voice note earlier on. So that's
very good.
Referring to, yeah. Like I said, I suppose looking ahead to the European games, you mentioned, but obviously Derry have been knocked out, but we still have 3 Irish teams still to come. Pat's obviously the game comes to weekend. So does Shamrock Rovers and so does Shelbourne. We'll start with Shamrock Rovers, Macdara. Sparta Prague Champions League. I think you said a few minutes ago they have a 1% chance by probability of going through. Is that the latest odds?
These ones. So like they not only got to group stages last year in the Europa League, they beat Galatasaray in the kind of the knockout playoff round, I think they call it, but that's after the group stages, and they played Liverpool, got beaten well enough now in that last 16. But the previous year they got out of the group stages, Europa League as well, and the year before that they were also in the Europa League group stages. They beat Celtic home and away. So yeah, they're a pretty impressive outfit. So they've only played the one league game so far this season. That was Friday night. They won 2-1, but they had I think it was 4 or 5 players were playing in the Euros. So yeah, they're certainly a decent outfit. They're back-to-back Czech champions. They won the double last year. So it's a tough enough draw for Rovers, but I suppose they're getting them. Potentially you're getting them to say that they did their preseason in Germany. They've only played the one league game, but it's a tough enough draw. But I was looking at the money. I think people were it was well known that the penalty kick hitting the post and going out the other night essentially earned Rovers, guaranteed them 1.7 million. But if whoever wins this tie is guaranteed group stage football, and if that is Europa Conference League group stages, that's worth minimum 3.87 million for Shamrock Rovers or for Sparta Prague. And then there's additional money. There's this 10-year prize fund, 5-year prize fund, and potentially it's maybe another million on top of that if Rovers can get to the Conference League group stages. Now, they're not playing particularly well at the minute, but they've 3 shots starting this week at Sparta Prague. They'll be, if they lose that game, they'll go into the Europa League third qualifying round where they'll be seeded, and they're in the Champions route. And I was looking at that earlier on, like there's the side from San Marino is potentially in there, that like they play a loser of one of the sides also in the Champions route in this. So there's some difficult ties there, but there's some easy ones as well. So but yeah, they're home on Tuesday night, and the ticket sales they've sold out. South stand, they sold out the main stand. It's 75% of the North stand sold out on Saturday. So it looks like it's probably heading to a sellout on Tuesday night in Tala.
Yeah, I look forward to making my debut now in the North Stand. I can watch the game, so I do look forward to trying the new stand there. But Thomas,
I was recommending you go right up to the back row. Has this brilliant view out over the stadium and the Dublin Mountains in the background.
So I shall take a photograph and I will put it on my X feed when I get there on Tuesday night. Thomas, just saying, if you can draw back for your Dundalk experience watching the Dundalk play Paddy Bars off the Champions League game, Paddy Bars would be heavily favourites for the Dundalk going into that match. So again, might be a 1% chance the bookies or probability, whatever the hell Andrew Dempsey was quoting in terms of odds. But like again, Davis sometimes does beat Goliath.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, and I suppose the first, the Bate game, obviously Dundalk had the experience of being beaten by Bate the year before. So, and narrowly, I can still see Dave McMillan missing that 1-on-1 at 0-0. That would have obviously changed the tie. The following year, then the away tie was first, and Gary Rogers, was inspired to keep the score to 1-0. So you're bringing them back to tally. You're saying pretty much, I won't say is that all you've got, but I mean there was only 1 goal in it, and then look, that was a magical night 8 years later. But it was all about keeping the score down in the away leg, and then when you've done that, you know what you have to do. So it was, and like I say, look, you've the benefit of having watched them the year before as well. Look, it's going to be a tough tie for Shamrock Rovers. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But Shamrock Rovers have European experience. It's not as if they've suddenly, qualified for Europe and kind of went, look, this is beyond our expectations. At this point, Shamrock Rovers are expecting to make progress in Europe. Like, you win the title on multiple occasions, your next step is trying to get a foothold in Europe. They have, they've done the Europa League group stages. Now the expectation is, like I say, put a foothold in Europe. That's a tough, it's a tough ask against Sparta Prague this time. But I mean, like Macdara says, they've another chance after this. So even if even if the underdogs don't come out on top, there's still the next chance. I mean, you go back to Dundalk in the 2016, they were narrowly beaten. Legia, obviously, look, we still go back and look at that handball penalty that was given against Andy Boyle at the Aviva, and that ultimately proved to be a very important goal for Legia, but Dundalk came out of that, reassessed themselves, and went on and did super in the group stages. So again, the hope is maybe if they can't overcome the Sparta Prague hurdle, that at least they still go on a they still give a good account of themselves in Europe in a different direction, like.
But there now we know that obviously Shamrock Rovers are eliminated from the FAI Cup. I suppose maybe does it put maybe not the Sparta Prague ties, but does it put now extra pressure on the squad that it's really Europe or bust for success this season in terms of showing my Shamrock Rovers' point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I think the league title is gone. I think this is too few games to go. But yeah, there will be pressure on. Like this next round is the talk is is it a free hit? It probably is a little bit, but they then if they do lose as expected, they drop into the Europa League, and even if they lose that, they go into the Conference League playoff. Now they got that to that stage in 2022, I think, or 2021. I'm trying to remember my COVID timeline, and they got to the playoff, but they lost to Flora Tallinn, and they were well beaten in that round as well. Now they learned some lessons. The following year, they went and they qualified for the Conference League. So they won't be taking anything for granted. But the cup was a big thing. That window is now closed. The league winning the league window is pretty much shut as well. So yeah, it provides maybe extra pressure, but maybe it's an extra incentive. It's like, oh, this is what we need to concentrate on. This is what we need to do. But they still need to finish high enough to finish in Europe as well.
You're obviously going as a fan on Tuesday, but on Thursday you'll have your journalistic hat back on for the St. Pat's game. As I said, we recorded on Sunday. Pats, as I briefly mentioned, 30 gloss over as quick as I could, were absolutely horrendous today in the Brandywell. The second half of form is one of the worst I've ever seen from St. Pat's, and they owe those fans a complete apology, to be honest with you, the lads who made it and the girls who made their journey up to the Brandywell. Aside that, Europe is coming around the corner for Pats. Vaduz, again, who play in Switzerland. I think they're in the second division in Switzerland.
Yeah, so they play in what they call the Swiss Challenge League, which sounded pretty rubbish to me, but it's actually their second tier. Yeah, they were in the top tier until 2021, and then they were relegated into the second tier. But they're a decent side. Like last year, they got to the group stages. Sorry, 2023, I think it was. They got to the group stages, winning the second so they came into the second qualifying round. That's where they started, and they won that round, third round. In the playoff round, they beat Rapid Vienna, which is pretty impressive. And they won all 3 rounds. They won away from home, and then in the Conference League, they got 2 draws. They drew at home to Apollon Limassol, and they drew away to Dnipro. I presume that was probably in a neutral venue. So, this is a team that's got to group stage football. So yeah, it goes beyond, they're just a Liechtenstein team. So, Pats, there were poor enough results last year against the Luxembourg team. They lost home and away.
Dudelange, yeah.
But Sunday's game will be a big kick up the ass for them. And the fact that they've actually a pretty good record in Richmond Park in Europe, I think a lot of the time they go further in the tournament, they can't actually play in Richmond Park. So that probably lends itself. It's a sellout because I think just because we can only use the seated areas of the ground.
2,500, I'm pretty sure, to get past the European games, like 50%.
Yeah. So it's not an easy draw, but it's a winnable tie. And what they want to do is, I suppose, maximize the opportunity. They got into the second qualifying round as FAI Cup holders, and they want to make sure in this first round that they keep the tie live for when they travel away. But they'll be looking to win. They'll be looking to win the match. They've got a manager in the dugout who knows all about, winning matches in Europe against decent sides. So, tough day at the office up in Derry, obviously on Sunday. But, you always hear players are like, oh, they just want to get on to the next game. They want to put a loss behind them. And what better way is to have this match in Richmond Park on Thursday evening?
Yeah, and at this stage of the game now, it doesn't look like they're going to qualify for Europe next season either. So again, getting through one round will soften the blow of the money they're going to miss out next season. That's the reality of it. So again,
and it's worth saying, because I've a piece up today on who are spotted Prague, and it kind of gets into the money as well, but it also includes so last year he went through a round in Europe. Whenever you got eliminated, you got a certain amount, but also each round you played in Europe, you got €100,000. UEFA has increased that to €175,000. So, there's an extra 75k up for grabs compared with last year. So, just getting through one round is worth that 175 plus the extra amount that you get eliminated out from the tournament. So yeah, it is big money. It's important money. The clubs need this. The club need this money desperately. I could say so. There's a little bit more at stake. And from the players' point of view, like all the typical player contracts, will have a percentage cut. So it's in their own financial interest as well as their own personal interest.
It has knock-on effects with contracts, clubs, size of squads. It's massive. European money is huge. Just really quick line of Shelbourne. Obviously playing Zurich 6 p.m. on Thursday. For them, I think it's just stay in the game and bring it back to Talca Park. That'd be my understanding if I was Damien Duff.
Yeah, I think anything like that would be really good. I'd imagine it'll be a full house in Talca. Again, they're limited just to be able to use their the seated areas for their game. I think that's probably the last round that they can play in Talca Park as well. So, but it's a tough ask. But I think anything, even a one goal.
But they have momentum behind them. On a positive, they have momentum behind them. They're top of the league. They're flying. They got you their Rocket Gibraltar test. They're momentum. And you can't beat that in football. So look, why not go into the game? It's a free hit for them again, using the Johnny Kenny
and both Duff and Joey Bryan, some great stories about his time playing in Europe with West Ham and whatever. So I'm sure he's been giving them stories as well. So no, I hope they do well on Thursday night.
Before we wrap up, Tom, do you want to talk us through some of the transfer news and maybe plug one or two of your articles coming up?
Yeah, no, look, like you say, talking about Shelbourne, the guys that they have recruited are experienced League of Ireland players. Look, obviously Sam Bone, who has been around the league before he left from Dundalk. Ali Coote came in. Harry Wood, we know what he brought last year, and Rehan Tulloch actually shone very brightly for Dundalk before he left last season. You look at the more established sides, the likes of Derry brought in one, Jacob Davenport. The likes of Shamrock Rovers brought in nobody so far. You look at other sides, even Patsum, and we see that Stephen Kenny obviously is kind of, like you mentioned, contracts and all that kind of. Europe will have a big basis on that. So, if he's not going to get through in Europe, his budget next season will obviously be different. He's brought in Kazim, who obviously was super for Galway on the left-hand side. So, the first half of the season, Joseph Anang, look, you know how well he played the season he was here. Even Zach Albazeri, who it's a while since been in the league at Waterford, but he's an experience. He knows the league. He's not learning the league. So, you're looking at the likes of those to shine the back end of the season. I think Sligo Rovers have done some serious work bringing in Stephen Mallon. He's going to fit in with Sligo. They've lost Fabrice Hartman. The loan with RB Leipzig is over. So he's, Hartman, we've obviously seen how important he was to Sligo. Mallon, injury, a few bits and pieces of injury. I don't know during this previous time in the league, but playing with wingers, Sligo Rovers could bring something different. Obviously, massively for them. Ed McGinty staying on to the end of the season is going to be huge for them. In there, at this stage, can we still say it's survival? Like they're probably, we spoke about Dundalk and Drogheda at the start of the pod. Like it's probably going to be between Dundalk and Drogheda who comes 9th and 10th. Sligo are making their way out of there. Galway, with the experienced John Caulfield and Ollie Horgan in charge, they are again looking for experience. Junior, he was top scorer a couple of seasons ago back in, like I mentioned earlier on. He got his first goal this weekend. Jimmy Keohane again was super with Cork a couple of years ago. Very, very experienced. John Caulfield knows him very well. Bobby Burns coming down from Glentoran, again replacing Kazim going out. Greg Cunningham, that's a superb signing. I hadn't realised how young he was. Jack Brady coming in to replace Joe Wright as a sub-keeper. Galway, we're going to see them again. They're doing super so far this season. And that sense of experience in their transfers is going to help them at the end of the season. Dundalk, we're coming to the end of the pod, so we're not going to go through the amount of ins and outs of the likes of Dundalk and Drogheda United, but I just will say keep an eye out on Douglas James Taylor, who is scoring prolifically at the start of his time at Drogheda so far. So look, keep an eye out on him for the rest of the season.
Lads, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Luke. And
before we wrap up another episode, there was another big game this weekend in the showgrounds, albeit a friendly match. Everton faced Sligo Rovers in a thrilling 3-3 draw. Irish captain Seamus Coleman spoke to Extratime.com's Donald Ryan and Jessica Ferry, and let's have a listen.
Yeah. So, Seamus Coleman, you're very welcome back to Sligo.
Yeah, very good to be back. Great excitement, obviously, all week since we knew about the fixture. So, one that I really, really enjoyed, and great to see some familiar faces again.
What did you make of the opposition you faced today?
Yeah, very good, but I knew they would be strong. I know they got a game Sunday as well, so a few lads rested and that, but good test. The lads are in season, they're fit and well, so we're back a few days. But no, great test for us, and one that we really enjoyed, and first of many.
What do you make of the reception that you got here? Obviously, you're loved by both clubs, Sligo Rovers and Everton. There was a real show put on for you here this evening.
Yeah, listen, but I didn't expect anything other than that. I often say I left one amazing family club here with Sligo and went to another amazing family club at Everton, and I've been blessed with the two clubs that I've represented. And this gave me a great ground and some great memories here. And yeah, it's a bit strange how the years have passed and then back here again, And
happy to be home back in the Northwest. You're rushing off now again.
Yeah, happy to be home. It's always lovely to get home and spend some time with the family and things. So obviously you want to give the fans all that they want as well, because they come out of their way to come here. So you try and get through as many pictures and photos and autographs as you can. Obviously you can't get through them all. It would be impossible, but it's nice to spend as much time with them as I can.
Seamus, how much did it mean for you to actually get back here to play a friendly, because they don't come about too easily?
No, that's probably the last of it now. Great for me to finish off back here and finally get back to play at this lovely ground and this lovely football club. So it meant a lot to me.
And as mentioned last week on the podcast, we have a new feature now for you guys to get in touch. We have a WhatsApp number for you guys to drop a voice note or leave a comment, and you never know, you could be read out on the podcast. The number is 089 429 5932. And to get the phone hopping off the hook, we have a quick question for you to see how many people can get it. Johnny Kenny was very close to getting a European hat-trick after scoring his 2 goals against Vikinger last week. I want to ask, can anyone name me the last League of Ireland player to score a hat-trick in Europe? So, can anyone remember the last League of Ireland player to score a hat-trick in Europe? The number again is to write in your answer is 089 429 5932. I want to thank Macdara Ferris. I want to thank Tom O'Connor. I want to thank all our contributors this week for dropping in voice notes. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll chat to you all next week.